What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another MLS Monday by Scarves and Spikes. Gentlemen, happy Mario Day.
Happy what day?
Mario Day.
Mario Day, March
March
10th.
10th.
March 10th. I get
Favorite
it.
Italian
You
plumber
get
day.
it. Well played. I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
I did not. Well, I knew what it was, but I forgot all about it.
I mean, I'm not going to try to take it away from myself. Like, I'm a big video game fan, big Mario fan. Y'all know this.
Yeah.
But having three boys, I will never forget about this day, even if I wanted to. So,
Henry, were you a Mario fan growing up?
I was actually. I played a lot of Super Mario 64 growing up, so that was
Good game.
Yeah, that Mario Kart. It's bringing back all the memories.
all of them, man.
The Nintendo 64 was the thing when you were younger, right? Kind of like the generation gap between you, Tyler, and
I was the Wii generation. I had a Wii growing up.
Oh, that's right. The Wii generation. That's right.
And so my thing was all like Wii Sports, and then whatever you could get on that, like the FIFAs back, like what was it, like FIFA like 12, 13 and stuff that was on the Wii. That's where I played my first FIFA, was on the Wii.
There you go.
Motion
I've never
control.
played Wii FIFA, but
It's an experience unlike any
Some good
other.
times, man.
I'm sure.
All right, guys, we have a big show today. Lots of stuff happening in MLS over the weekend. Y'all be sure to check out, obviously, scarvesandspikes.com for all the Atlanta United coverage. Like, subscribe if you haven't already to the channel, because it does help us out a ton. And big shout out really quick to Atlanta's own Sweetwater Brewery. Big partnership that we have going on with them. Thanks to them for the support of Scarves and Spikes. And y'all go check out their website. They have a very big music festival coming up called 420 Fest. If you've lived in Atlanta for any amount of time, you've probably heard of it. But It comes up in the middle of April, 420, every year. So y'all go check out their website for more information.
What is their website, by the way?
I believe it's just
sweetwaterbrew.com. I knew that, but you just didn't mention it.
Yeah. We should put in the website for our sponsors,
You know what's funny though, like a lot of times like companies they'll buy, so yeah, it's sweetwaterbrew.com. A lot of companies will buy multiple domains. So it'll be like sweetwaterbrewery.com, sweetwater.com. Anyway. So anyway, yeah, no. Big thanks to Sweetwater as usual. That event, if you've never been, giant music festival, and it is a ton of fun. So keep an eye out here as well, because we may have some stuff coming up for that as well.
We have something coming up today on this episode. Edgar from News Across the Galaxy will be joining us. We'll be talking about the Galaxy. We'll be, of course, talking about the big headlines across Major League Soccer, but Galaxy losing again, 4 winless, 4 losses in a row, I should say, across all competitions. So we'll be talking with Edgar about that, what the state of the Galaxy is right now, and whether it's just injuries or something bigger going on, guys, with the Galaxy. So looking forward to have friend of the show, Edgar, with us.
And we did not pick Edgar to come on and chat with us just to pick on him. Genuinely want to get the insight of someone who not only has covered the team for a long time, but you're covering a team that won MLS Cup last year. And we knew they would probably start off the league a little slow. And I don't think anybody maybe thought it was going to be as rough as it is right now.
Yeah.
But we'll dive into that in a little bit. But let's kick it off, because as of right now, in MLS, as of the end of match day 3 going into 4, there are two teams that are still perfect. And those are one that nobody had on their bingo card, which is Philly, and probably another one that nobody had on their bingo card.
If you pick the, no offense to Vancouver Whitecaps, so you pick the Vancouver Whitecaps to be 3-0-0 over the first 3 matches, you need to buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Yes, Sydney. I was going to pick the Philadelphia Union, who spent like $2 over the offseason, and the Vancouver Whitecaps, who have, historically been mid, to be the 2 perfect teams out of 3 weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah. Funny how the league works sometimes.
That's MLS for you, huh?
Hey, this is why you don't bet, or as our friends over at Soccer Down here would say, this is why you don't do the juice boxes. You're not throwing out juice boxes of any kind on MLS.
Well, shall we talk about Philadelphia, guys?
Let's start off with Philly versus New England, another team that is really, really, really having a rough go of it.
Yeah.
Sydney, I know you have some strong things. You were tweeting out in the middle of the Atlanta match the other night about them. What's up with them? What do they got going on?
Talking about the Revs or
The Revs,
Philadelphia?
yeah, the Revs.
They're bad again. I mean, I don't know what else to say about them. I mean, no wins through 3 matches, finished just outside the Golden Boot race last season. Well, not right outside. I mean, San Jose had 21 points. The Revs had 31, but Revs losing again 2-0. And you got to wonder, we'll get to Philly, obviously, but you got to wonder, what does this mean for Caleb Porter? Does Caleb Porter last the month, guys? Ask the Revs head coach. You know, this was supposed to be the year with high expectations to some extent, hopefully making that step back toward respectability, but here they are again, winless through 4 matches. And guys, they don't have Champions Cup to blame this year. So just not a good start for them, obviously. And if you look at their future schedule coming up, the Revs, they have NYC this coming up match day, and then after your international break, they have the Red Bulls at Gillette Stadium. Is there a world, guys, that if they lose to NYC, does the front office make a decision and say, hey, Caleb Porter, pack your bags, you're out of here? And you have to start asking those questions, right? Just rough going for the Revs. Really rough going.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's the one prediction that a lot of folks had going into this season, that it was just going to be really tough. Like, they weren't a good team last year, and they didn't really do a whole lot in the offseason. Or, I mean, really, they got robbed by Bruce Arena in the whole season. And so you're going into this 2025 season, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, like, well, what are we doing that's going to be much different? And at this point, I mean, this game specifically, they go out, right? It never looked good. Like, they never looked comfortable, and they're playing at home. And it's not like the statistics were one way and, you know, they got robbed on a whatever. Like, that's not how the game played out. They just got straight up whooped.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they don't draw a lot of fans. They don't draw a lot of fans anyway, so it's not like anyone cares up there.
Which is a shame.
Yeah,
admittedly. It's such a missed opportunity.
I mean, I'm surprised that Caleb Porter went into the season with this job, to be honest. I really wish that we'd done this before the season, but I wanted to ask the question, is Caleb Porter the first coach to go, or who do you all think is the first coach to get fired in MLS?
Absolutely,
this year?
Caleb Porter. Absolutely,
has
Caleb
to be,
Porter.
right?
Yeah,
because things are looking bad for New England, and it's not just the results; it's the soccer. It doesn't look inspiring. You made a weird kind of MLS level trade where you got Leo Campana, and that's still not working for you. And he was a good player in Miami. He is a good player. And he came off injured. And he came off injured. But it's like it doesn't really even matter because the team just isn't coming together. And so I really saw that you were putting it on Twitter, Sydney. I think it was Twitter that you posed a question like, does he last the month? And you even just asked it. But I don't think so. To be honest,
does he
makes it to April? That's borrowed time.
Does he last past next weekend? Like I just said.
I mean, there are a couple of coaches out there chomping at the bit that I'm sure could get something more out of that roster. It's not that it's
give Rob Valentino a call.
I know, right?
I mean, you could do a lot worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I would. Hey, I think he'd be a great fit up there. I really do. Interestingly, I was looking it up. Nowhere near, obviously, the longest losing streak. But do you know what the longest losing streak in the beginning of the season is?
8.
Almost.
9.
9. And guess who it was?
New England.
No.
Right.
I set y'all up for failure on that one. I'm sorry.
Who was it?
It was Toronto.
Okay.
Back
2 years ago?
2012.
Oh, okay.
So
Not 2 years ago.
no,
Much longer than 2 years
Right.
ago.
longest
Yeah.
losing streaks you got overall. You got now you do have Toronto and then New England twice, and then Orlando at 9, and then Salt Lake
Yeah.
at 10, the Metro Stars at 12, and then our
None of
good
those
friends
Rebels.
FC Cincinnati at a whopping 14.
Yeah.
So
Back when Cincinnati wasn't very good.
yes,
But
getting back to the game, y'all, we gotta look at the other side. We gotta look at Philadelphia because they are the big surprise of the season so far. 3 wins in 3 games, and against pretty tough opposition. I mean, you had Orlando, which going into the season we thought was going to be a pretty decent team. Cincinnati, who I think a lot of us in the staff predicted would either top the East or be within the top few teams.
yeah.
And now, I mean, yeah, New England isn't that much, but still, they had to go. It was an away game, wasn't it? It was.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
And so
that's
it's still like it's impressive that Philadelphia is getting these results. A huge credit to Bradley Cardinell coming into this team and kind of lifting them because they were not at this point last season. And then there is one guy that we absolutely have to spotlight, and it's Tai Baribo. 6 goals in MLS
wow.
in 3 games.
That's incredible.
This
Tied for a
guy is
record.
crazy.
Tied for a record to start the season in 3 games. He can't stop. Can't stop scoring.
he's on one.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess that was kind of always going to be the one wild card that Philly had, right? Like if somebody just happened to step up their game this season, then you could take everybody by surprise. And I think that's exactly what's happened. And it's not just that they're playing cohesive, way more cohesive soccer than I thought they were going to be playing. And in this one, now I said a minute ago, New England got beat, and they got beat. They really did. If I'm giving them any credit, they did hold Philly scoreless for a little longer. And the first goal, was whatever. But at the end of the day, Philly is showing the hallmarks of a team that can maybe fight a little bit of adversity, whether it's your own roster or where you're playing at or whatever. So, I mean, it's impressive. It really is. And I'll go back to what I said last week. You're still, a couple weeks in. A lot of things can change, but if they can keep up this kind of form, then that's going to be probably one of the stories of the entire season.
And shout out to Aljaž Ivicic, by the way. He made 7 saves for New England. So this could have been a heck of a lot worse for the rest. But anytime your keeper has to make 7 saves in the match, something's wrong. So there are definitely deep-seated issues in the ranks of the refs right now. But Philadelphia, again, just keep scoring. They keep winning. You wonder how long can it keep going? And, we joked around about Philadelphia, Bradley Cardinell. Hey, what are you going to do in your first year as the unit head coach in a organization that traditionally hasn't spent a whole lot of money? It's maybe leaned on their academy too much, maybe more than they had to. So they have coming up Nashville this coming up match day. After that, Seattle, they played through the international break, and then Miami to wrap up the week in Fort Lauderdale. So you have to like their chances against Nashville. St. Louis, we'll talk about them a little bit later. Nobody can score against St. Louis at this point. So maybe that's when they kind of hit the brick wall. And then Miami, who knows what will happen against Miami. But however long they keep going, I mean, guys, we could be talking about legitimately, if they can continue this, obviously, maybe a team that could get back to the elite of the Eastern Conference. Team to watch for sure. And certainly Baribo, your Golden Boot leader, at least early on. Very interesting situation in Philadelphia. Better than anyone, I think, would have thought.
For sure. Henry, you look like you're about to hop in. What you got?
No, I was just going to say to wrap up this part, Philadelphia, led by Bradley Cardinell, is getting ready in a couple of game weeks now to play St. Louis. And guess who their first head coach was? Bradley Cardinell, who will be facing his old team, the team that he took in their first season to qualify to CONCACAF Champions Cup, to the top of the Western Conference, 2023, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and now he's leading this Philadelphia side to a perfect start to the season so far. So we'll see if he can continue it in these next few weeks. But huge credit to him and the work that they're doing, because as we've said before, Philadelphia isn't really a team that spends a whole lot. And so they're really making the most of what they have. And that takes a lot of work. So credit to them.
I kind of blew past that. Good shout on that for St. Louis, Philly coming up on the 22nd, March 27th. The Brandon Cardinal Derby, if you will, guys.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and call it.
That'll be definitely one of our picks of the week when it comes around. So
yes, it will.
Jumping over to the Western Conference, the other perfect team in the league right now, the Vancouver Whitecaps, who I mentioned last week. I was, they hold a soft place in my heart. They do. Yeah. And then they go and do what they did up in the Canadian Derby, which was a good game. It really was. That was one of the matches to watch from last week. But they knock off Montreal 2-0. And I think let's just start, though, kind of how we did with Philly. Perfect, right? Like, this is not another team that you thought would be sitting in these shoes 3 games into the season.
No, for sure. And the big story, obviously, guys, we have to talk about is Ryan Gauld coming off injured in the first few minutes of the match. He's out for a few weeks. And fortunately for Vancouver, it's nothing longer than that. But obviously, he's one of their stars up there with Brian White. So you hope, if you're a Vancouver fan, especially coming into Champions Cup this week and then moving on toward the rest of the month, you don't want him obviously injured. They play Monterrey later on this week. Dallas they host, or they visit Dallas, and then later on in the month they take on. I should have this in front of me. I didn't do my homework. Vancouver, they host Chicago next match week, and then Toronto on the 29th, another Canadian derby in Toronto. So he'll probably miss those matches, Ryan Gauld, but I think they're pretty fortunate to not have him missing for an extended period of time. Looked to be like a non-contact injury. He went for a ball, came down a little awkwardly. A little flumpy, and unfortunately had to come out. Unfortunately for Vancouver, they were able to win the match, of course, but I think they really dodged the bullet. Vancouver did, to not have Gauld out longer than he is. Who do they rely on now to fill that spot, fill those big shoes, to partner with Brian White in the attack? So again, bullet dodged for Vancouver, but again, able to beat Montreal, remain perfect in MLS. Again, nobody expected them to be in this position. Terrific job by Jesper Sorensen, the first-year head coach, just like Bradley Cardinal, first-year head coach in Philadelphia. And, it's still a small sample size, guys, but, the earlier you're able to get points and position yourselves up in the table, the better. I mean, this is a league where anything can happen. This is a league where, obviously it's a marathon, not a sprint. So at least they're off to a great start. Vancouver is. Can they sustain that as the season progresses? I mentioned Champions Cup. I don't know if you probably don't fancy their chances to beat Monterrey. It's 1-1 right now. They have a away goal. Vancouver does. Can they pull off the upset? That's the immediate question that we have to ask. But right now, all good for Vancouver. All good for the Caps, at least early on.
So with Vancouver, you mentioned, the fact that Gauld isn't going to be out for an extensive period of time is good news, but the timing of it is terrible because they're in the middle of their CONCACAF Champions Cup run, and they're facing a very good Monterrey team, even though in their first game, I will say Vancouver was the better side. And they probably deserve the win, and
1-1
just didn't happen. So now they have to go to Mexico and try to get a result there. That's always difficult. The advantage, though, funny story, is that Monterrey won't be playing in their stadium.
Yeah.
Because it's booked for a Shakira concert.
Good old concert.
They got Vancouver Whitecaps.
Shakira.
Them hips don't lie. So they'll be playing.
Waiting for it.
Santo Laguna Stadium.
That's
that
awesome.
game. But yeah,
No,
look,
Shakira, not yellow card.
that's the
Come on, Tyler.
terrible guys.
Sorry.
That's the game you want Ryan Gauld for, though. Is the game where you have to
100%.
go, and because you have to win that game, you can't. If it stays 1-1, then Monterrey goes on away goals.
Yeah.
So you need to go and at least score a goal, and you want the guy that had 25 goal contributions for you last season to kind of help you in that, and he won't be there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they make up for his creativity. Pedro Vite has had an amazing start to the season. They'll have him. Matias Laborda scored in this last game. The team is kind of just coming together in a really, really good way. But we've experienced with Atlanta sometimes when you're missing that guy with the magic, when you're missing your Almada or you're missing your, Almiron or whoever is in that number 10, that creative position, then the challenges start to come up. And so we're going to see how Vancouver adjusts to this, but they got to go take the game to Monterrey in Mexico. So it's a challenge.
If your defenders continue to score goals for you, then Ryan Gauld, who,
Right.
I just thought it was so interesting. Like this was your two outside backs in this one that did the job. And it was actually a really, really close fought game, but it's always nice when you got guys that are maybe if honestly kind of felt like Atlanta United 2022 or 3, where it was like, I mean, it ultimately wasn't the best season, but you had goal contributions from a lot of different guys.
Right.
So you got to take the threats, where you can get them, and then you have to make the other team respect you. And I think it's kind of what happened in Montreal.
Just quickly, quickly on Monterrey, of course, they're the quote-unquote home team. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, of course, it's not just a stadium, but so the home team. You feel like they kind of go for it in the first little bit and just try to take the tie in the first few minutes. If that's the case, Vancouver are going to have to, now they have this, they may have to bunker and dare Monterrey to score against them because they need that goal. So they're right away are going to be chasing right off the bat. What do they do to counter Monterrey? They're going to want to put that match and put that tie away in the first half. So I don't know if they can do it. Vancouver, the chips are against them. Even with Ryan Gauld in the lineup, the chips would have been still stacked against them. I'd be surprised if they come out of that. And, Henry, as he said, Monterrey have the away goal that they scored at BC Place. So be really surprised if the Caps are able to take the tie ultimately. Just too much stacked against them at this point, I believe.
So last thing before we move on, we just talked about Caleb Porter probably not making it through March. Laurent Courtois from Montreal. This month is a Montreal team that in 3 games has not recorded a single point. One of only 3 MLS teams so far that haven't recorded a point. How hot is his seat on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being, cool, icy, 10 being butts on fire?
Man, if Caleb Porter's like a solid 9.5. Courtois, I don't know. I think a 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7 for me. I think, they made the playoffs last season, barely, albeit, but they did make the playoffs. So I think that buys him maybe a little bit more time. That being said, if he doesn't turn things around in Vancouver or Montreal quickly, by the transfer window, I think the Saputos they won't hesitate to make a change there. I mean, their patience is very thin. I mean, they're Italian football owners. They own an Italian football team anyway, so that tells you all you need to know about their mindset. To get results immediately or else. But that's the situation in Montreal, and I feel like yes, he has a little more leeway than Caleb Porter does. But if things don't turn quickly, he'll be the Heat guys will be turned up a little bit more.
They have a very winnable match this coming week against DC. So it's not that. I mean, those are the ones that you hate to lose because then it just makes it even hotter. But if you win, 3 points buys you some time. And so like their next 3 matches, you have DC, Nashville, Chicago.
Yeah,
Those are all not terrible. Like,
winnable.
but then you got Columbus after that. Then you're getting back into the rough waters. But those could be really good matches. So I'm not counting Courtois out yet, but he's got to get something done over these next 3 matches for sure.
And I'll add on before we do move on. When I did talk to Andy Coronado of The Ball Is Round, I remember that one of the things is that Montreal has had a lot of injuries for these first few games. And especially some of their newer players, Jalen Neal, center back that they brought in from the Galaxy. He was a starter in the team that won MLS Cup last season. Giacomo Vrioni, their designated player that they brought from New England, also out. And the list is longer than that. I just don't have it off the top of my head, but the injuries are a factor. And they're a factor for another team that we're going to talk about in a little bit that also has 0 points out of 3 games. And that's a little bit surprising, but we'll tease that in a bit because we also have someone that's coming in to help us talk.
We have, in the meantime, we have another team that's very close to that one that got the brakes beat off of them, named LAFC, by a team named the Seattle Sounders. We were in the press box at the Atlanta game watching this one, and I think we all saw, was it the second Seattle goal go in, and we were like,
Paul Rothrock,
They whooped LAFC 5-2. It's wild. Just a wild match overall, and Seattle needed it.
Congrats to Jordan Morris, by the way, breaking the all-time goal-scoring record for the Seattle Sounders. Good for him. He's a Seattle boy through and through, grew up there. National team player at his best, but he has been the mainstay for the Sounders and part of that organization for life. So congrats to him. But guys, Seattle, 5 different players scored, including Paul Rothrock, who had that banger we just talked about. I want to kind of caveat this just a little bit for LAFC. They heavily rotated, and they did that due to Champions League or Champions Cup the few days before this particular match. They're up 3-0 in aggregate against the Rapids. They had to Rio Tinto. They had to Dick's Sporting Goods Park out there in Commerce City for the second leg. They're up 3-0 aggregate. So that leg is pretty much, or that tie is pretty much done and dusted. But LAFC rotated tremendously, and it came back to hurt them. And that's the balance you have to take when you're in MLS and Champions Cup. That being said, you have to wonder, why still rotate even though you have a pretty safe lead against the Rapids? Do you not rotate against the Rapids in the second leg? So again, maybe a little bit of a questionable decision by Steve Cherundolo to not only rotate, but rotate as much as he did. And again, it kind of hurt them in the end. Seattle rotated, not to the extent that LA did, but ultimately they, like you said, Tyler, beat the brakes off LAFC. Like you said, they needed it. And maybe this is what they needed to kind of kickstart the attack up there in the Pacific Northwest.
Henry, what you got?
As far as LAFC, I think them rotating makes a little bit of sense because they do have to go back to Columbus for the second leg of that tie. And
Columbus, or did I say Columbus? I meant Colorado. I meant Colorado. Columbus, what I meant. Right?
Yes. No, you said you got. You're good.
That's a Colorado.
You said Colorado.
I said Colorado.
You're back on the right track.
Let's start with the C.
It's very close. Yeah, they both start with COL. But you have to go back to Columbus. You have to go back to lower.com field, and that is a place where LAFC has already lost 2 finals in the past 2 years. So it's sore memories. And although they do have a 3-goal lead, you don't really want to chance it if you're LAFC. You want to go through to the next round. You want to hold on to that. And so it makes sense to me that they would, I guess, kind of sacrifice this game a little bit and try to play it safe in terms of CONCACAF Champions Cup. But yeah, I mean, it is a huge beatdown from Seattle. And again, credit to Paul Rothrock for what absolutely has to be a goal of the week. Yeah, I mean, Seattle showing early kind of why we picked them to finish top of the West. They've got the depth, they've got talent, and yeah, they also have a tough matchup in CONCACAF Champions Cup against Cruz Azul. I don't remember exactly how that aggregate stands, but
0-0.
0-0. Okay,
Yeah.
so they're going to Mexico basically to win either way. So
commit a robbery. It's possible. I mean,
one goal can do it. Well. One goal can do it.
Goal could do it. No goals could do it. You just go to penalties.
No goals to do it. Exactly. Exactly. Can they do it though? Do you guys think that Sounders can beat Cruz Azul?
I do. I really do.
Think they have it in them?
I really do.
I think they can do it. It's gonna be a tough game, but I think they can do it.
I think having the game that you just had is a massive confidence builder going into that one. I think.
Agreed.
Maybe we'd be having another conversation had this LAFC game gone differently, or even if it was just like a low scoring draw or something. But you just dropped 5.
Right.
You're riding a little bit of a high, so I think you just got to keep that with you and go down to Mexico and say, hey, we gotta steal one and
smash and grab.
Yeah. So, but that is that LA team, and now our very special guest, friend of the show, gonna bring in the one and only Edgar, News Across the Galaxy. Very good friend of the show. How you been, man?
What's up, Edgar?
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. It's always an honor to be on here with Scarves and Spikes, guys.
We appreciate
always
it, buddy.
An honor to have you, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a very up and down couple of weeks for me. I think I shared that with some of you guys in private, right? But yeah, this past weekend was the first sense of normalcy, I guess you could say. So with all the stuff that's been happening in my personal life, like the stuff that's been going on in the field with the LA Galaxy kind of pales in comparison.
Yeah.
So like, while a lot of people are running around like the house is on fire, I'm just like, it's gonna be all right, dude.
Well, we will.
I'm looking down the. Sorry, you were saying?
No. I was just gonna say we will send them the biggest plate of like the greasiest Waffle House hash browns to fix the hangover and get it all back right for you guys.
Yeah,
we're gonna need more Waffle House. We're gonna use some Cracker Barrel too.
Coming right up.
Thank you.
So
no, but real quick, Edgar, good to hear things are on the up and up for you personally. You know, you mentioned that, you know, perspective is important, and at the end of the day, football's football, is just a game. So definitely thank you to you, and you know, glad to hear again that things are doing well on your end.
Thanks for taking the time to hop on with us, man.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I guess just from your perspective, I won't even hit on any particular topic yet, but like what's up? Is it just the hangover? They need the hash browns? Like, is it the injuries? Like what's up with the Galaxy right now?
Well, y'all remember like a few weeks ago when Cody Rhodes was in the middle of that ring and John Cena was there and Rock came out and all of a sudden John Cena turned on him and they started beating the hell out of him and everybody was taking their shots. That's LA Galaxy right now, pretty much. Lying there like in a bloody heap like Cody Rhodes, right? You're still the champs, right? But you don't look like a champ.
Right.
That's a really
it's a lot of things. First and foremost is the fact that because of salary cap restrictions, they had to let go of a lot of key players that helped the team win MLS Cup. I was telling people for the longest time, and I've told you guys before as well, that the team was in the middle of a rebuilding phase, and they just happened to win the cup. So that means they're way ahead of the curve. But one of the results of that was that a lot of players saw their value suddenly skyrocket, and all of a sudden the team just cannot afford them. Or you could also say that maybe these would have been normal personnel moves, but because these guys turned out to be important players during that cup run, all of a sudden their departures take on a different dimension where people are like, hey, wait a minute, remember when this guy did this for us in the cup run? Why you let him go, right? A big example is Mark Delgado. When Ricky Puig went down with injury, he stepped in and did a fantastic job to try to fill those gaps. And we had seen him do something similar along with other components of the Galaxy midfield in the middle of the 2024 season when Ricky Puig initially went down with an injury. And we saw that Galaxy could work without Ricky Puig, so that when he did go down against Seattle, we knew that it wasn't the end of the world, that the Galaxy already had experienced something like that, and they had like a failsafe. But now he's gone, right? So he's gone. Daniel Velic, he was at the end of his U22 initiative contract, and so he was owed DP money, and now Galaxy just cannot hold on to him. We have 3 DPs already, so they made the very difficult decision of having to trade him away for Ram, which is real actual money, right? So he's gone, and then Jalen Neal was just shock departure to Montreal. So he's gone. Academy kid that we all loved seeing grow up in the system. He's gone. And then, of course, God, who am I forgetting? Oh, yeah, Brugman. Brugman went to Nashville. So those are 4 guys that are really important during that cup run. So they're gone, right? They're gone. Ricky Puig is going to be out until like mid-July. So then you're looking at the team, you're like, all right, it's not that bad. In the offseason, Galaxy made some moves to bring in some people to try and fill some of those gaps. They brought in Lucas Sanabria, a player who was from Uruguay's Nacional, good, young midfielder, not exactly at the level of Ricky Puig, comes from La Masia, but this kid's good, right? So he comes in, and there's a lot of expectation around him. And then they also brought in Mateus Nascimento, a really young, raw, unproven talent from Brazil. And we have a Galaxy supporter who lives in Brazil. And when Gabriel Peck came over, I contacted him to speak about Peck, and he was like, yeah, this kid's amazing. So, I really trust his opinion. So I asked him, what do you think about this other kid? He's like, this is another Gabriel Peck. So this guy's going to be great. He's a little bit more, a little bit raw. So you're going to have to see him work through that. So we're really excited about these guys. We get Christian Ramirez to come in. He's excited to be back home because he's from Southern California. And we're like, all right, guys, it's going to be okay. It's working out. And then Joseph Pinto gets hurt. Joseph Pinto had got 21 months playing nonstop with club and country. And we thought the rest would help him. I guess not. He's like one of those people that work their entire life, and the moment they retire, they get sick or die, and you're like, oh, geez. Right? So he got hurt. So you're like, oh, no, we're down 2 Ps, right? We at least we still got Peck. And then you find out that Mateus Nascimento, the kid from Brazil, he gets hurt too. He hasn't even seen the field yet, and he's already hurt. And then the injuries start to pile up. You find out Miki Yamane, our left back, our right back, he's hurt. So he's out too. And then one of the other players, Mauricio Cuevas, his midfielder, he's also hurt. He's out for a while. And then you find, oh my God, just to make things worse. So the Sanabria kid, if people are like, oh, he's not as fantastic as Puig. Of course not. But he's learning on the job. We're up in Vancouver. Right. Drew Fisher is officiating that game. He was the official during the Seattle game where Seattle beat the hell out of Puig until he got injured. And now he is the official up in Vancouver, and Vancouver was beating the hell out of the Galaxy, and they knocked down Sanabria so hard that he suffered a fractured collarbone. So he's out for 3 months. So this is a guy who's supposed to replace the guy who's got hurt. The guy got hurt. So like what the hell do you do now? And then we find out that one of our center backs, Carlos Armiro Garces, was a fantastic center back. He also got hurt in that game. So at the end of that weekend, 7 players were injured. And so you're like, what the hell are we doing, right? They head down to Costa Rica, and Galaxy scrambles to put together whatever they can. Garces, he toughs it out. He plays that game. They lose that game, and a lot of Galaxy fans are losing their mind. They head into this weekend's game against St. Louis, and I had Matt Baker come on from Flyover Footy. We talked about it, and we both predicted that St. Louis was going to win. A lot of Galaxy fans were upset with me, like, "How dare you?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm calling it like it is. What do you want? What do you want us to do?" Right? I mean, they actually had academy kids in the starting roster, coming on to play, right, to fill in the role, because they also have to keep in mind that the next match is Wednesday against Herediano, the second leg of that CONCACAF Champions Cup. So there's a lot of things in flux. There's a lot of things in motion, and a lot of people are upset. But I'm not that upset. And I alluded to that on Twitter. you guys asked me right on Twitter, like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm not that
Right.
upset. That's
I just
because
begged to do
All
something for
good.
my fantasy team,
All
dude.
good.
That's all I needed.
it's gonna be okay.
It got me though.
Now
Yeah.
this result against St. Louis. St. Louis is celebrating this like they won the cup. They're like, damn it, we beat Galaxy again, and LA is, St. Louis is better than LA, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, that's fine.
Transitive property. Yeah.
Their fans are cool. We had some of them over, and they're fantastic. They're really friendly, so I let them have that. But at the same time, our team is hurting, right? We got all these injuries. We got this Champions Cup game to think about. But at the same time, I'm thinking, the moment all these guys start to get healthy, the moment the roster starts to get really filled up again, we're gonna be all right. Right now, the focus is on Wednesday's match, which a lot of people are very down on the Galaxy, and I think they're gonna win. I think they're gonna win 2-0 and advance against Herediano. One of my reasoning is that Herediano they had to qualify to get to this tournament in the Central American Cup, and in the preliminary round they played against Real Estelí, which is the champions of Nicaragua, my homeland. And Real Estelí bodied them in their own stadium to advance to the final of that tournament. So I was like, if the Nicaraguan champions can take out Herediano in their stadium, a depleted LA Galaxy should defeat these guys. So I'm very optimistic going into this weekend. But you go in any Galaxy chat, especially the ones where a lot of the younger fans, and they're having an existential crisis right now.
I can imagine.
Right.
It's gonna be all good, man. All will be well.
We haven't even talked about the goalkeeping situation. Of course, looks like Mikovic at this point in time looks like the starter. I mean, what's up with John McCarthy? What does he have to do? Yeah, what does he have to do to get a starting job in MLS? I mean, helped the team win the cup last year. Now he's looks like second choice at this point.
That is a very interesting topic. We were talking about that last night on our show. I'm sorry. Sorry, my brain is fried right now. On our show, News Across the Galaxy, we were asking, what's going on with John McCarthy? Is he hurt? And I think it's a case that Vanny is trying to give Mikovic, that's our backup starter, an opportunity to prove himself, because all of last season he kept clamoring like, when am I going to get my shot? I gave up, an opportunity to play in Europe, to come over here, and I was told I was going to be a starter. And he played in some matches in Leagues Cup and some other games, and he did okay. Some Galaxy fans saw it as like, this guy's better than John McCarthy. Now, I always tell people John McCarthy is mid compared to some of the other goalkeepers in MLS. There's other better goalkeepers. Like, for example, we just saw Roman Berkey, who's a fantastic goalkeeper in MLS. Right? He overshadows anything John McCarthy or Nikovic, right? He did. So Mikovic is in there, and it's a case of what happened with Dejan Jovalic in 2023 when Jovalic first came to LA Galaxy. He started scoring these fantastic goals as a sub, and the few opportunities he had to start, he would do these great things. The Galaxy team was terrible, so he had all these opportunities to just be free with his play. So he was doing all these fantastic things, and so at one point he was interviewed on the field and said, give me the opportunity. I'm the future of this franchise. I'm going to be the man once, Chicharito's gone. Well, the following season, Chicharito was hurt to start the season, and Dejan Jovalic got the start, and he struggled. I think he scored one goal in Austin, and then the rest of the time that he was a starter, nada. It was very humbling to him, and it took a while for him to come back around. And last season was his redemption season, and we saw what he did against Seattle and against New York, and towards that MLS Cup. Now Mikovic is getting his opportunity, something similar, right? For some reason, we don't know yet, right? Greg Berhalter is giving Mikovic his chance to go out there and prove himself, and he has made mistake after mistake after mistake. Not horrible mistakes, but distribution is very it's subpar. He dropped the ball. That first goal by St. Louis, he dropped the ball, and then it was a scrum to see who could get the ball either in or out, and St. Louis got it first.
Yeah.
So he's made a bunch of little mistakes, and these are things that a lot of fans are, saying, okay, let's bring McCarthy back already. But right now, Vanny's saving McCarthy for the Champions Cup, and he's going to be there for that Champions Cup match this Wednesday. And I told somebody my son just got home. I told somebody in the Galaxy chat, I was like, I wouldn't be upset if we don't see Mikovic until Leagues Cup play, because I have not liked what I've seen so far. And that's about it with him. But he's getting his opportunity, and it's just not happening for him. What else can you say?
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the big story with the game yesterday. I mean, because St. Louis, like, they did the job, right? They pounced on the opportunities they had. I think the big storyline, that's kind of what we wanted to start off talking to you about before we jump over to some of the other games. But I mean, St. Louis handled business. The game really changed because of the Mitrovic, that drop. Marco Royce didn't really do himself favors, though. I will say I thought Marco Royce had probably his better game that he's had, minus being unable to score, and also that flub on trying to clear the ball. But, like, I think that was the moment, because at that point, like, the Galaxy, to be fair, looked pretty good. And then it kind of all flipped after that moment.
You're absolutely correct. I'm sorry. I just want to follow up on that, because you're absolutely correct. Galaxy actually had 8 shots on goal. And I'm not talking about just 8 shots. I'm talking 8 shots on frame in that game.
Yeah.
A lot of that's because the goal didn't come because Roman Bürki is such a great goalkeeper. Great goalkeepers don't have to make a lot of acrobatic saves, because they know where to position themselves to just knock the ball down or stop it. And so Bürki was doing a lot of that. Some of the shots that Galaxy players took either went over the net or hit the frame. Marco Royce hit the post on one of his shots, and he had one of his better games since joining LA Galaxy. But one of the things I also told people was about trying to say chill. These shots that Marco Royce took and some of the other players that just went a little bit to the side. These are shots that in about a month or two are going in. I feel like LA Galaxy had a very abbreviated off season. They won the cup, and then literally 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, okay, guys, get back in there. And some of them are just like, oh God, give me a chance to, to get a breather. Especially like I said, Joseph Pinto, who had been playing for 21 straight months, Marco Royce, who have been playing for 18 months in a row at that point. So it's just trying to get them back into that mid-season form at a time when you have to try and fast track these things, because the Champions Cup is the main focus right now.
Yeah.
Nobody around here really, really expects LA Galaxy to challenge for another MLS Cup, because we know how difficult it is to win one just in general. So for them to go back in there and try to win another one, it's going to be a really difficult thing to do. Given how much turnover there's been in the roster, how many new players have to come in and learn the system. So all these things make it very difficult. Sorry, my little guy's here.
Are you good?
Okay. Come here, buddy. Okay,
Showing
so
time.
yeah. So these are all different aspects that go into it.
It's a interview.
Yes, it's us. Sorry. So I forgot the rest of the question.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah.
Actually, so I know you've had because we're getting ready to jump to DC, SKC. I know you've had a ton going on in your personal life as well. So I don't know how much you've been able to follow the league and kind of be on, the up and up, or how much you've been listening to the show. So you're more than welcome to stay. It's totally up to you as we dive into the rest of the league. But I'll leave that one up to you.
I want you.
Oh, yeah, it's good times. Tyler, you know what it's like.
Oh, I know, 100%. Baby girl was on here trying to jump in right before we went live. So no, I totally get it, buddy.
I see
No worries here at all.
Yeah.
What planet is this?
Oh, sorry, I got a background with all the planets, and he's like, "What planet is this?"
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Is that the sun?
that's planet Atlanta right there.
There you go.
Where the Italians at?
Yeah.
Why my mom is a
So,
friend just gave me.
Yeah, Papa, can you go down to mommy, please?
No, I just.
That's how you know you're live, baby.
Nope.
Oh, careful. Sorry. So anyway, no, I just want to say that I've seen the turnaround in Atlanta, and like it's really fun seeing some of those games now. Like I got a chance to watch the Crown and Coke just a couple of weeks ago, and I know you guys were on the, I know you guys came out on the losing end, but games like those are I feel like are gonna enrich that MLS experience because a lot of people want to see that kind of rivalries, that kind of action on the field. Because for the casual fan, it's messy and nothing else. But once you draw those people in and you tell them, hey, look at all these other teams, look at these other opportunities to see these fantastic players, then they start to really buy into the league. And if they find out that their local team has something special to offer them, they really invest themselves into the league. I saw that a lot with a lot of Galaxy fans. We got a lot of new Galaxy fans last season. Obviously, we know why. But now trying to keep them there during a difficult time is the real thing. So
100%. 100%.
Yes, sir.
And that's actually, so I was going to segue into the next one, talking about kind of players that, build up that reputation. They kind of bring in the fans. They get things exciting, but there's really no way to segue into this next match with that kind of conversation, because this is my Snoop Dogg uncles fighting game of the week, and it was DC and Sporting Kansas City. So you didn't really set me up well there, but it's okay.
Hey, Daniel Leach.
That's true.
He ended up going to
I was gonna go there,
SKC.
but it didn't really work out well for him either.
Well, I'll tell you this much, because Jimmy from No Other Pod covers SKC. They had me on like when Daniel Leach went over there.
Yep.
And they were asking me about him, and I told them, it's sad to see Dayon go because we saw him, have a redemption pretty much this entire season. And he went back to that same Dayon we saw in 2022, where he was having fun. He was scoring these really nice goals and being very creative. But I told him, I was like, I'm excited for him and this next step of his career, but he has to get service. Dayon is the kind of guy you can give him the ball at the top of the 18 and he'll create something out of nothing. But you have to get him the ball. I was like, who in SKC can get him the ball? Because otherwise, you're going to have a guy with a DP tag on him, just floating around the 18, just trying to make runs into the 6, and he's going to starve. And he's going to get frustrated after a while. And then Kansas City fans, I've noticed a lot of them are questioning, why did we bring this guy on? Well, you got to feed the guy. You got to get him some service.
Yeah. Sporting Kansas City as a whole are struggling. And one of the questions that we were thinking about internally was, how much more time does Peter Vermees get? He's been there forever. He's the longest tenured head coach at MLS by far. This is finally the year where Sporting Kansas City and Peter Vermees part ways. I always imagine him leaving on his own terms, but it seems like this team has just struggled mightily over the past couple of years.
Papa, open it.
I was shocked whenever he got that 4-year extension a couple years ago.
I was going to say he got an extension.
They were struggling then, and it really hasn't gotten much better. I think in that time they made it. They didn't win Open Cup again, right? They made it to the final, or am I tripping? Like,
yeah, I mean the final U.S. Open Cup final.
Okay, because I know they're like the Open Cup team
last year, I think.
Yeah, but they just haven't done anything, and I think both years starting off and now this one included, like they're at the bottom, and it's like, at what point are you gonna be okay with not being mediocre? Because that's what they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at LA Galaxy being at the bottom of that table, and I mean,
Papa, I want you to put this.
I will. Sorry, you see the LA Galaxy, right? And I was always told, don't offer excuses, offer reasons, right?
Papa,
why things are the way they are, and there's reasons why LA Galaxy has the current run of form that they have. But I look at Kansas City, and I'm like, you guys, are in the bottom looking up. You have these opportunities. You've had this guy there forever. Like, like some kind of college basketball coach is just there forever, right? Like Bill Self, for example, from KU. And you have this opportunity to build a team and the way you want it. And he's there. He has his fingers in everything. Peter Vermees does. But you get to a point where you start having diminishing returns. What are you going to do? And this is where Kansas City fans are like really distraught at this point because he got the extension and then they figured, oh, maybe we can move on. No, he's going to stick around. So whatever Vermees is serving, you're going to have to keep, eating that. We keep going with the food references here.
And for DC's part, they went down early. They're able to turn it around pretty quick in the second half. I mean, they get back on track. They've got finally some points to look at. Well, I say that they've had some draws, but they haven't looked great either. But I think coming out of this one, that's why I called it my Snoop Dogg uncles fighting game of the week, because it's drunk. It's gonna be drunk when you have teams like that playing, because it was sloppy. It was that kind of sloppy game, and nothing about it was, I think, pleasant to look at. But DC needed the win, and it just kind of, I think, continued to show why SKC is where they're at.
DC's keeper almost got cleaned out too.
Yeah. So I'm saying, it's like watching the uncle fight in the backyard. So, all right. So, because again, that one, not much. Peter Vermees, I think, is going to be the topic for a while. Jumping back a little closer to our home.
Oh, real quick. Sorry. Yeah. I wanted to hit on DC real quick because. Okay. Sorry, buddy. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I opened it. Sorry, guys. But a few years ago, we had Dave Johnson on our show to talk about.
Yeah.
What's the DC United?
We had Dave Johnson. Yes. Okay. I just want to make this point real quick. We had.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had Dave Johnson on, and I was asking him about why it was that DC United had taken so long to get back into form. They've been struggling for so many years, and he said that the team had made a lot of sacrifices to save up money so they could buy that new stadium, Audi Field. And so he says a lot of sacrifices had to be made. It wasn't something that was like put out there, to the fans, but Ben Olsen was pretty much hung out to dry during that time because he was in charge of this team, and they looked terrible for so long. Now they got that stadium. Now ownership can start to shift the focus into rebuilding whatever remnants there are of any legacy DC United has, right, from those 4 MLS Cups. They can start to try to rebuild something, but they've been down for so long.
Yeah, they have.
They're like way down in the pit. How are they going to climb back up to relevancy, especially in a really stacked Eastern Conference? That's the challenge for them.
100%.
With Acosta really were there. It's like a little spark, but outside of that, they've not been able to keep that sustained. So hopefully DC, for their sake, can get things rolling and get back with the elite teams in the Eastern Conference. Were you going to switch us to Nashville, Portland, Tyler?
Yeah. That is that was, I think, one of the other kind of surprises. Nashville obviously been struggling. Portland comes to town, and honestly, you talk about a drunk game. That one was drunk. 2 penalty saves in the first half.
Yeah.
By Nashville. Nashville saves them. And then they go and win it 2-0. So I guess, Henry, because I know you've been hanging out down there in the bottom left corner. What you got on it?
Yeah, I mean, it was Nashville domination for that game. I mean, if you look at the stats, 23-9 in shots, 11 shots on goal to 4. It was all in Nashville's way. And look, what BJ Callahan has done with this team in a relatively short amount of time has been pretty good. And so they're heading in a positive direction, but it still feels like there's something missing because the first 2 weeks, it just doesn't feel right for Nashville. Just there's some stuff that's not. Like there's stuff there, but there's also not. I don't even know how to explain that. But yeah, Nashville is a different team in a decent way. Portland is just a dumpster fire, in my opinion. Not just from week one going to getting destroyed in their own home by Vancouver. But like, just I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I think like
No.
it's one of those. Portland is such an up and down team, in my opinion. They've been such an up and down team. But I actually thought they would come into Nashville and give them a run for their money. I really did. I thought that it was
Right.
going to be more of a fight. And to be fair, like again, you had 2 penalty misses. That's what we're calling them, right? Like you came in and you tried to do something, but anytime you have 2 penalties blocked, missed, whatever, it's not an easy thing to go then win that game. That's demoralizing, incredibly demoralizing. So, I mean, Nashville needed it too, right? Like Nashville, especially at home. But I think it was one of those that maybe you got to see a little bit of a spark that Nashville hasn't shown at all this season.
Quickly on the Timbers, you have to ask about Phil Neville. How long does he get to really get things going in Portland? Because they fired Gio Savarese to get these results, right? They crashed out of the playoffs magnificently against Vancouver last year, barely got in, even despite the efforts of Evander. He didn't get out of the front office, essentially forced to move over out of the city. And now Phil Neville's not really left with a bare cupboard, but much better than it was when he got there. So how much rope does the front office up there give him? I think that's the question you have to ask in 2025. But they've at least won a match. But outside of that, just a tough loss on the road against Nashville for sure.
Yeah, that's another example of how strong home field advantage is in Major League Soccer. Also, like you said, Portland is so inconsistent. I think that they're still hurting from that whooping they got by Vancouver in the playoffs last year, and especially because Vancouver came in and whooped them again right off the bat. They're still struggling from having lost Evander, and then at the core of it all, that fan base has to deal with having Mary Paulson as their owner, a guy who has been linked to so much, controversy. I'm sorry, my God, controversy. Sorry, and that's difficult. It's difficult to separate the two. Although he says, he's separated himself from making footballing decisions and all that, but the stain of what he did or the stuff that he allowed is still there at the heart of this team. And I feel like it still pollutes some of the stuff that happens with them. Like Evander complained about certain things, but I feel that he was also making an allusion to Mary Paulson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to think about it too, because it's not just the Timbers, it's the Thorns as well. There's a lot going on there. And, I've kind of thought that for a while. You had, because it's been 2 years now since I think a lot of that stuff started coming out. It may have been longer, but it's one of those things like it's hard to not essentially burn it all down and start over. And so the way that they've kind of traversed through, like Edgar said, that stain, some of it's still there. And you got to think that plays a factor into some of the stuff that the players see day in and day out that the fans never hear about.
And real quick on the Thorns, at least where Paulson sold the Thorns, essentially NWSL forced to sell the Thorns. So at least they're under different ownership. But as Edgar said, just the stench and all the nasty stuff that happened under Mary Paulson's watch allegedly is just pretty awful, and just shows the culture in some of these front offices, culture in some of these clubs that, especially on the women's side. So just terrible to see that happen. I say allegedly, I mean, the report said it happened, but just terrible to see that happen. And Paulson has been really epicenter of that, like Edgar said. So,
all right. So then, I guess diving from that one, the last, I guess, big story of the weekend was our good friend Gregg Berhalter finally getting a win with the Chicago Fire. A come from behind win where all the goals to come from behind came in the 80th plus minute.
Andrew Gutman scoring, our old friend from Atlanta.
He did it again.
Yeah.
So, what do y'all think about the Fire?
I'll go real quick because I spoke to Nick, Barty Nick Glasshouse Soccer. I spoke to him recently before because Galaxy played Chicago and Coachella, and so I asked him, "What's going on with there, man? You know, what's been going on?" Because they moved back to Soldier Field under a new ownership. So what's going on? You know, what are you guys doing? And he said, "Well, the ownership is trying really hard to market the team and try to bring people into Soldier Field, but in the end." Soldier Field is Soldier Field, right? It's like a spaceship inside like this historical monument, and they did a terrible job, right, with the whole restructuring of that stadium, and it's still this massive cavernous NFL stadium, and Chicago's not drawing out well. They haven't been doing well for so long, so the atmosphere in the games is kind of dreary, but nevertheless, the ownership's trying their best to change the outward appearance of their club, trying to market it better. And they're doing things that honestly you could say, okay, this is a legitimate attempt to try to fix things. Bringing in Gregg Berhalter, who is a lightning rod for criticism, obviously is a step. I feel like it's a step in the right direction because he is a better club coach than he is with the national team. That's without a doubt, right? But how quickly can he turn this whole franchise around? They have some pieces there, and I feel like they're definitely going to do better than they did in years past, but trying to bring people in to the stadium is going to be a little bit tough. But when you look at that sporting landscape in Chicago and how horrible all those teams are doing, the Bears suck, the Blackhawks suck, the Cubs suck, the White Sox are historically bad. I mean, damn, right? Come on, go Fire.
Right. It's a rough place to be.
Need something.
It's a rough place to be. And the thing is, like, the way that they won, it's not sustainable. We've said that about Atlanta in a few matches over the past couple of years. Like, you've had some really exciting moments, but it's like this is totally unsustainable. So, Berhalter still got a lot of work to do. He really does.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, it was a crap show of a game. Like, it was back and forth. It was wild, which is great for neutral. But I mean, the way that they won that game, that doesn't happen often.
Right. I'll say this real quick, and Henry, feel free to jump in for sure. I think the jury's still out, like Ty, I think you were saying. They need more than one win to get themselves back on track. This has been the laughingstock in MLS for a while. And I 100% agree. When you look at Berhalter, the coach at a club level versus Berhalter, the coach at national level, is different. It's different. It's just so many more intricacies so many more things that you can do with a club than you can do with a national team. You're not with the team every single day. You see them, a few months or a few times out of the year. With the club, you're able to get hands-on into the nitty-gritty. And the knock on Berhalter is he's never really got into the next step, not only at the national level, but at the club level as well. So I think that's kind of one of the many kind of things that is riding on him. But if you get production out of Hugo Kuipers, you get production out of Brian Gutierrez, who has had a great start to the season. If you're able to get production out of those two players, the Fire can go a lot of good places. And if Chris Brady is able to play at a strong level of play, he didn't look really good on the goal that Dallas scored, came off his line, and fortunately was beaten by Logan Farrington. But if you can get a good play out of him, Chris Brady, one of the better young goalkeepers in the United States poll, the Fire could be a team that sneaks up on people, maybe just a little bit.
What do you guys think about? this is something that you
Sorry.
could answer too, by the way, because you want to talk about franchises that have been struggling to attract fans and just be relevant in general. You got Dallas and Chicago. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You guys see the stadium, right?
Yep.
The highlights.
Yeah.
So I asked around, right? And Jose Diaz from Ghost TV said that they closed down half the stadium to remodel it and expand the Hall of Fame there.
Yep.
But still, this you're talking about, like, I don't know, like Dallas, Chicago. These are two franchises that need a lot of TLC, man. So what do you guys think about that?
No, 100%.
Yeah, I was gonna say with Dallas, it's first of all the way that they lost this game is it sucks because it's like you're winning until like the 82nd minute, and then in 2 minutes you're already down 2-1, and then Petar Musa misses a penalty. This was I'll share this, but this is a game that like wrecked my fantasy team because I had both Lucho Acosta and Petar Musa. And I was excited for a sec because I saw on my phone, I'm like, oh hey, Petar Musa scored and it was a Lucho Acosta assist, and then the goal got called off.
Yeah.
So and then Petar Musa missed a penalty and he got a fat 0, which was not fun. But aside from that, it's not a great sign for them. And look, I wasn't sure about the coaching hire that they made. If I'm not mistaken, this is the guy that was the coach for North Texas, right?
Yeah, Eric Quill.
Yeah, Eric Quill. And like, that's fine that you want to believe in him, and he succeeded at the MLS Next Pro level, and those are credentials, absolutely. However, if you're a club that's actually aspiring for big things, to if you're actually going for MLS Cup or actually going to be a competitive team, I would think you want, I'm not saying necessarily a bigger name, but at least someone that has had some experience at the MLS level, someone that's had experience at the professional first tier level. And so for me, that was a red flag going into the season. But then, okay, you get Lucho Acosta. That's huge for Dallas. That's huge to complement Petar Musa. And I'm sure the pieces will come together. They almost did in this game. But they need that to come together sooner rather than later. And from experience, they need to learn to hold on to leads. And that's something that's not easy, as we in Atlanta are very painfully familiar with.
Just a little bit.
They gotta hold on to these games, because these are games that'll come back to bite you, especially against Chicago. We're talking about how they're getting better, but this is still not a great Chicago team, because they had to kind of flukishly win this game at the end. And I'm not trying to take credit away from them, but this is not a sustainable way to win games. This was Dallas letting their guard down, and that's how it happens. And so Dallas has a long way to go. They've got some stuff right, but there's stuff that has to happen for me to be convinced with them. And first and foremost, it's really figuring that attack out, because you have potential.
Yeah.
Got to get it together.
Yeah.
It's all going. And to be fair, there's a lot of teams that are saying the same thing right now. I mean, Atlanta, really, Atlanta's got a $50 million, price tag, and yeah,
that's a whole nother level.
Right.
So they could be in that same boat, when you kind of lump some of these teams together. It's like, well, they should be playing better. And you're right. MLS is weird.
And again, we're 3 games in. This is just the game, game 3.
Right. Small sample size.
We're still kind of moving out of preseason form and kind of getting into mid-season form. So I'm expecting things to improve, but yeah, that's one of the things for me to look out for in Dallas, is when that attack starts clicking, because when it does, I'm sure Petar Musa had several goals last season. I don't have the exact number, but he contributed. He had several goals. And so I'm sure with Lucho Acosta there, once that connection solidifies, that's going to be one of the attacks to watch in the West.
Yeah, I was also going to say, piggybacking off that, is that we've known for many, many, many years about the quality of the Dallas Academy, and you always hear like all these fantastic players are coming out of that academy and going to Europe and having very lucrative careers, end up playing for the national team. And you wonder, like, what would happen if FC Dallas holds on to some of those players? And well,
Yeah.
they started holding on to some of them, and things aren't working out the way that they wanted. And maybe it's because also the FC Dallas Academy has lost some of its luster as well.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that too is kind of what Henry was saying. Like, you have that pedigree with your academy.
Right.
They make the jump, and almost all of them end up playing for coaches that have developed players even further. And now you have a guy coming in who doesn't have that pedigree at all. And it's nothing against him, but how can you expect to bring up the next Weston McKennie or whoever, right? When
he's a spinner.
Yeah, when he's, this is a guy that hasn't really proven much of anything besides a third tier league. Nothing against him,
So
but we'll see.
real quick though, he coached in USL
sorry,
Championship
guys.
first season.
Yeah, I know you gotta dip.
Yeah, I gotta. My wife's gonna walk the dog, so I gotta take care of my son.
You're good, buddy.
But
All good.
thank you guys so much. Thank you for being
All right.
so patient with me.
Hey, man, always.
Thanks for
Appreciate
coming
it.
on, man.
It's nice to have just talk to all of you. I could talk MLS all day long, man. I'm an MLS sticker, but good luck to to Atlanta later this season. Hopefully, I get another opportunity to talk to you guys again. But for now, hey, good luck, and have fun, and keep supporting our beautiful league, man.
Yeah, man. We appreciate it, buddy.
Always.
Later, guys.
See ya.
Thanks, Edgar. Always a pleasure, man. Take care. Real quick, Eric Quill did coach of the USL Championship. New Mexico United led him to the championship game in that league against Charleston Battery. I'm wrong. They won the Western Conference. They won the West. Didn't get the championship game.
Okay.
Apologies. But
I mean, it's fair. It's fair. But it's still, I think, it's going to be a long time. It's going to require somebody really coming up kind of out of nowhere and just being super successful for that stigma to be broken, right? Of like, you have to have somebody with experience. Like, it's not easy. It really isn't. It's a totally different monster when you get thrown into a head coaching position in Major League Soccer.
Ask Stephen Glass.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Really quick. There's nothing on here that stands out to me wildly. Ramon Berkey won Player of the Match Day. But is there anybody on the team of the week that stands out to you at all?
No, I mean, Berkey all the way. Well deserved. 8 saves. I mean, come on. They have to have a conversation with your defense on how they allowed 8 shots on target at the very least. But, I mean, that's the big one. Shout out to him. Well deserved man of the match day, player of the match day for Berkey. That defense is legit. It looks like St. Louis unscored upon over 3 matches, and Berkey has had a lot to do with that. So definitely shout out to him. Can they keep it up? How long can they keep it up, I should say, is the big question. But right now they look really good on Olaf Melberg in his first season in MLS leading this club. So that's obviously the big one. Henry, I don't know if you have somebody else.
I don't really. I mean, it wasn't a week where I would say one particular player really stood out, except for, Roman Berkey definitely deserves player of the match day because he stood on his head and kept the clean sheet going for 3 games in a row. An impressive start for St. Louis, an impressive start for Roman Berkey. Yuya Kubo scored. I have no idea what position he was playing because he plays literally everywhere. But he found the net, so that's the important part. He listed here as a forward, so I'll believe that. And I mean, Coach Brian Schmetzer, I mean, you coach a 5-2 victory over one of the consistently top teams in the West. You deserve that. And so I mostly agree with it. I don't really have any other comments besides that.
Well, speaking of St. Louis, what matches are you guys looking at?
Well,
match day 4.
That's what I wanted to segue to. Our Sweetwater key matches, or key matches presented by Sweetwater. Haven't quite
our sweet matches.
Our sweet matches of the week. But no, presented by Sweetwater again, brewery partner of Scarves and Spikes. Sydney, I saw your name on the list first. I have mine, and I feel good.
I only want to put my name on the list.
I have mine too. Oh, whoops.
Kidding. Just kidding. St. Louis, Seattle. That's an awfully intriguing match in the Western Conference. You have St. Louis, we just mentioned, unscored upon thus far in MLS play through 3 matches, and how far they can they keep going. Seattle coming off 5 goals, of course, against LAFC. We talked about it earlier, so something has to give in the gateway city at Energizer Park, formerly known as City Park, formerly known as Centene Stadium. But something has to give. Does St. Louis pitch another clean sheet? Does Seattle's attack continue its strong order form that it picked up against LAFC? We'll find out. But that's my pick. St. Louis, Seattle.
It's good. It could be a really, really fun matchup. Or, I mean, St. Louis is so, I mean, obviously we know they're a defensive team.
No kidding.
Yeah, cool.
0 goals conceded.
I'll
Can
say
they
that.
keep it going?
I'll say that.
Henry, what you got?
What do you guys got?
Well, look, I know our rule is to not say Atlanta, but I feel like Atlanta Miami has to get a
It
shout.
has to be mentioned.
I'm not gonna pick that one though. That one's my top favorite, but I don't want to cheat. So I'm gonna say Charlotte Cincinnati. This is 2 teams that we expect to be atop the Eastern Conference. You have, Cincinnati's new attack coming together with Evander and with Denke, though I'm not sure how many minutes they'll be getting because Cincinnati is in CONCACAF Champions Cup and they have a tough matchup against Tigres that they need to win, if I'm not mistaken, because I think they're down on away goals or an aggregate or whatever. So yeah, they have to compete there. So I'm not sure what the rotation looks like, but Charlotte with Zaha, they put up a really good fight against Inter Miami this past match week yesterday. They put up a good fight, and Miami ultimately held on despite being a man down, and they got a really, really weird but really beautiful goal.
It was pretty.
Other than that, Charlotte looked very, very good, and they have looked good in their first 3 matches. So that to me is going to be what I want to watch. Is both of them have some good pieces in attack, but just the overall balance that these teams have is impressive, and to watch that, I think that has to be the game of the week for me.
Sweet, I like it. Bruno, as a sidebar, saying his Houston versus Salt Lake or Toronto versus Chicago, probably gonna be a lot of goals in either of those, which is true. Mine is a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Final. It's Orlando and Red Bulls. I think there's going to be a little bit of frustration there for Orlando, considering where it happened last year and how it happened. And so I think it might be a little spicy. And we'll see if Carlos Cornell's luck can hold out like it did against Atlanta, at least in the first half. But I think anytime you can get a good rematch like that, that's fresh and recent, I'm here for it. It's also the very first game, along with the aforementioned Toronto-Chicago match, both of those at 2:30 on Saturday. So if the Red Bulls in Orlando are my pick of the week for Sweetwater, my Snoop Dogg Uncles Fighting in the Backyard one is the other 2:30 game, which is the Toronto-Chicago one, because that's going to be a dumpster fire.
That one feels
in the most entertaining way possible.
Yeah,
that one feels like a stoppable force meets a movable object.
No, exactly.
Lightsaber versus adamantium, like
Yeah,
Right.
Sweet. All right, so there's the picks, and also as one quick other thing, Sunday, this is your first 3-match Sunday. You got Philly versus Nashville, the early game at 2:25. Portland, the Galaxy, which should be a pretty good game too, actually, at 4:45, and then the big one, which is Atlanta United versus Inter Miami.
Sunday night soccer.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. So yes, Sunday for those of you anywhere around here, because this is an MLS show, but we welcome all. You come to the Signia, which is the giant glass hotel right next to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Come out to the Nest on 4 bar 4th floor. Go inside, go up the escalator. You'll be right there. You see our signs. We will be having a live podcast starting at 5. This game is at 7. Keep in mind, Atlanta fans, the game is not 7:30. It is 7. So we'll be kicking off our show at 5, be done right at 6 when the lineups drop, and we will all meander over to the bins to watch Atlanta United beat the crap out of Inter Miami again.
Hopefully score a goal.
Hopefully score a goal. That's another topic for another day.
Yes.
That's a topic for Wednesday.
That's a topic for Wednesday. So if you're a Atlanta United fan or if you are neutral, join us on Wednesday.
And guess who else is going to be joining us on Wednesday?
What's that?
And I'm dropping this on y'all right now.
Oh, who?
We got confirmation early this week.
Tell us.
Sasha Kleshtin.
Oh!
There you go.
From MLS 360.
That's amazing. New Des Moines Menace player.
One of like 15.
After the second year.
So, yeah, y'all be back Wednesday at 7. There'll also be training that morning as well. So have some good fresh insight as to how things are going. But until then, y'all have a good
music.
Pleasure.
Happy Mario Day. If we wouldn't get copyright struck, totally would have been the perfect time to
play Mario music.
Just go in.
Get a cease and desist for that.
Right? Nintendo does not play.
No, they don't.
They'll find like a random Flash game somewhere on the internet and be like, we're taking you to court.
Did that happen to you?
No, it did not happen to me, thankfully. They're ruthless.
Yes.
By the way, did you bring your pint of chocolate milk today?
It wasn't chocolate milk.
It was healthy chocolate milk.
Protein shake.
Hey, there you go. No, I applaud you. It looked like I turned it on, and the first thing I saw was you taking like a big swig of what I thought was chocolate milk, and I was like, man, this guy is just going in on it.
Hey, respect the chocolate milk, man.
Hey, man.
Right.
All right, y'all.